welcome back to JW Forwardcast, the show that helps former Jehovah's Witnesses pick up the pieces, put them back together, and build them into something awesome. So, welcome back to another question and answer episode. This is going to be a briefer episode in which Alice Cheshire and myself answer a listener question that's been sent in. So, we hope you'll find this interesting. But before we get to that, we just have a brief bit of housekeeping. First up, here's a shout out to some brand new patrons who've been kind enough to support the show on the Patreon webpage. A huge thank you to Kimmy, Rent Daily, and Mentally Diseased, aka Germ. And if you type mentally diseased into YouTube, you'll actually find that he's a YouTube exJW activist, and he's got a whole slew of YouTube videos for you to check out. So, go check him out. So thanks to all you guys. And that segues nicely onto our next bit of housekeeping, which is that Patreon, the Covert Fade Patreon account, is getting a bit of a revamp. Basically, I'm adding more stuff. So there's going to, as of April the 12th, there's going to be way more rewards at all the tiers, but there's going to be less tiers. So it's a more simple decision to decide what you want to support the show at a monthly level. But whatever level you pick, there will be more rewards for you. One of those rewards I'm very excited about is a film commentary for the movie Apostasy. Alice Cheshire and myself sat down and we recorded an entire film commentary, which is basically us watching the movie and commenting on it, chatting about the issues the movie raises, the movie itself, filmmaking techniques, etc., etc. It's an audio commentary, so it's not video. So the idea is that if you want to, you can just listen to the audio on your own. You can just about hear the movie. You can occasionally hear the movie in certain parts, but it's mostly us talking. Or you can sit down with the film, synchronize with us, because I actually tell you to sort of start playing at the Curzon logo, and then we'll give you a running commentary as you watch. Obviously, watch the film first without us yakking in your ear. It's probably a better experience. But that's one of the new Patreon rewards coming. The other is I'm starting up a new podcast show. This is going to be a Patreon-only show. This is a way of thanking all my very kind patrons for all the support they give. This isn't going to be a show about techniques for putting yourself back together after you leave the JWs or anything like that. This is basically just going to be me chatting. I'm going to talk about stuff that's Jehovah's Witness related in the news, or things that have come to light on the ongoing kind of saga of holding Watchtower to account. So basically, if you follow the Watchtower in Focus show, with Lloyd Evans, which I sometimes appear on, it's going to be a bit more of that. And also I'm just going to generally chat about what's going on in my life. You're going to hear all sorts of dull, covert fade minutiae as I kind of explore life, find interesting things to talk about, and generally bend your ear for about 20 minutes. The show is going to be probably about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to try and get it up fairly regularly, aiming for 2 a month, but again, it might be a bit more if I find it easy to record. So yeah, those are two of the new rewards that are going up, and all of the because I'm reducing the number of reward tiers, that means all of the remaining tiers get more. So yeah, if you're thinking about becoming a patron, now's the perfect time. So that brings us to the end of the housekeeping. So pour yourself a cup of tea or a nice cup of coffee. Or if you're a governing body member, grab yourself a nice glass of single malt, maybe Macallan 12-year-old. And here's the next episode of the Forwardcast, in which Alice Cheshire. Sorry, Alice, if you're listening, she's going to kill me. Alice Cheshire and myself answer a question. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to JW Forwardcast, the show that helps former Jehovah's Witnesses and other former members of high control groups and religions rebuild their lives and take control of their destiny. This is a short, sharp listener question episode. Myself and Alice Cheshire, who is an exJW and a current life coach. Say hello, Alice.
Hello, Alice.
We are going to answer a question that our listeners have sent in. Today's question comes from MSTP 1982. And this is a really interesting suggestion. They want us to talk about how to get motivated to take the plunge and fade. So Alice, this is very much in your wheelhouse because you're a life coach. And one of the things life coaches do is they help people get motivated to do, partly to help people plan how to do something, but also they help people get motivated to do something. Yeah. So put a scenario to you. You've got a physically and mentally out Jehovah's Witness who's like, I'm a JW. I've realized it's a cult. I want to fade. I don't want to disfellowship. I don't want to disassociate. I want to try and keep some family relationships, but I'm kind of terrified to do this because I know it's going to cost me something. How do I get the motivation to go ahead?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk specifically about that because there's two parts to this. There's finding the motivation to do it and then the actual doing of it, the practicalities of doing it, which I think is one of those things that's probably really good for a longer podcast. But what I can definitely talk about in a short, sharp one is about motivation. Okay. So our motivation, the first thing we need to understand, motivation tends to come from our emotions. Okay. We are all emotional creatures, and the most motivating things tend to be focused around our emotions. Our emotions are what drives us. The other thing about that's really good for building motivation is to have specific goals. And it's not just about having the goal, it's about understanding our why. Why do we want to fade? Why is that our goal? What is it going to give us? So the first thing to do, I would suggest, when you've kind of got to that point of, okay, I want out, I've decided, like, now is the time I want out, but I've got to figure out how I'm going to, psych myself up and find that motivation to fade. I want you to think about what it's going to be like when you are into that fade. You are, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. You've completed a successful fade to the extent that you can complete a fade, because as we've spoken about previously, a fade is something that can take a long, long time, or rather it's something that will continue for a long, long time. So the first thing we need to think about is your why. Why is this so important to you? One of the best ways of establishing our why comes down to, you all know I'm going to say it, ding, 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 journaling. There it is. It's my favorite word about everything. Grab yourself a notebook, a pen, a piece of paper, and start writing down your why. And I want you to focus on what it's going to feel like when it's done. You can spend a bit of time thinking about the negatives. You can think about, I feel trapped, it's a cult, I feel that I'm not living my best life. All of those things are really, really good to understand. But the most powerful motivations are about positive emotions. So it's not so much what you're leaving behind, it's what you're going to. So I want you to write down all the things that you want and how you're going to feel when you get there. So if, for example, part of your fade is that you want to get back in control of your life, how are you going to feel when you are in control? Are you going to feel empowered? Are you going to feel strong? Are you going to feel excited? Are you going to feel motivated to get out there? And really write down how you're going to feel. Another really great exercise is something that I call my perfect week. So you start out, you imagine your life, whatever it is that you want your life to look like in a year or 2 or 5. Start out and say Monday morning, and do it in the present tense. Woke up this morning and made coffee, went to my amazing new job, my amazing new career. Then I met up with my gorgeous new boyfriend. And he brought me, roses or cheese or whatever your poison is or whatever. And then I went to the gym, and then I did some self-care, and I had a massage. And write out your perfect week as if it is happening to you right now. Because by doing that, you start to put your brain into where you're going to be. And there's 2 really great things about that. First of all, it builds all the positive emotions, and positive emotions are our motivation. And secondly, it starts to make your brain think that it's actually possible. Our beliefs are so important in driving our motivation. There's a really famous quote. Don't ask me who said it because it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't quite find it. It might have been Einstein. But anyway, the quote is, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Yeah. So if we believe that we can pull off this fade and that all of those amazing things that we want are possible for us, and not even possible, probable, not even probable, they're bloody well going to happen, then we're hacking into our brain, we're hacking into our motivational pathways, and we are starting to change our thinking, we're changing our mindset. And so that two-pronged approach, first of all, attaching so many wonderful positive emotions to this thing that you're going to do, and secondly, getting your brain to believe that it is possible for you. So two things: write down all the wonderful stuff, and not just the stuff that you're going to have, but how you're going to feel about it. I'm going to feel happy, excited, strong, empowered, rah, whatever it is, and write out what it's actually going to look like. And that, I think, is a really great start for then saying, okay, I've got this amazing thing that I'm going for. I'm psyched up. I'm motivated. I'm happy. And that then leads into the next part, which is actually planning for your fade. And that's where you get all the practical stuff going. But I guarantee you, once you're motivated and once you're excited about it, all that practical stuff is going to flow so much easier.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way of splitting it up, as you said, Alice, is the motivation on the one hand, and we will be returning to this, and we will be talking about the practicalities of fading, because, as you said, a fade could go on for a very long time, and it's an ongoing thing. But that motivation to actually get up and do it, because it can be scary, because in a way, yes, you're trapped in a cult, but if that cult's all you've ever known, it might be quite comfortable. It might be this really comfortable rut, and you're like, you know what, I could, for some people, and I'm not casting judgment either way. Some people are like, oh, I have to get out no matter what. But some people are like, well, this is my world. These are my friends. I like a lot of this life. The problem is it's a cult, but there's aspects of this I really like. And there's no judgment either way, because both are completely legitimate responses to the situation we find ourselves in. So I very much sympathize with that thought of someone who's like, look, I love the fade, but I'm scared of letting go. Or there are things I know it's going to cost me. Or there's a risk, like I know there's a risk that I might not be able to fade and I might get DF'd. And those are all completely legitimate. So getting that motivation, if you say, focus on what do you want from your life, and also recognize that sometimes the really good things in life, sometimes they have to come at cost. The reality is, and if you're in that position of, well, I might get disfellowshipped, you sit down and decide for you, is it worth getting disfellowshipped? Because I suspect it probably is, to get your freedom. I can't tell you what you think. That's an honest conversation you have to have for yourself. But the one truth in life is, they say freedom isn't free. The really good things in life, we have to work for them, and it means sacrificing other things sometimes. Only you know where your priorities lie and what you really want, but that's why you have to work it out. And as Alice said, that way of setting down that journal is a great way of working out, what do I really want out of life? What do I want my life to look like 5 years from now? How hard am I going to work to get there? What sacrifices am I prepared to make to get there? Because at the end of the day, we're all going to look back on life. We're all going to have regrets. That's inevitable. So make sure that you have the regrets you choose. Make sure you've sacrificed the things you want to sacrifice to get the things you want. And don't sacrifice the things you want because you were too scared to take the risk. And that's just the way I would finish that off.
Yeah, and also, thinking about finding that motivation as well. One thing that's really incredible about the world that we're living in now is social media. Now, social media obviously has its downsides. That there are negative parts to it, but what you can do is you can connect with loads of other people who have done what you want to do, and you can ask them and network, as in, well, where are you right now? Where's your life right now? What have you accomplished since you've left the cult? You can get involved. Twitter is a great place to find people. There are Facebook groups for exJWs. There are, there's the exJW Reddit. And you can really touch base with people who've done what you want to do, and specifically ask them, how does it feel? Would you ever go back? Hell to the no. I would challenge anybody to say that they would actually go back. As you say, maybe there's some things that they miss. But by making ourselves believe it's possible, we can look at those people who've done what we're trying to do, see how much happier they are, how they've been able to accomplish the stuff that they want to do, that you want to do. Maybe they've been able to get their career off the ground. Maybe they are now financially secure. Maybe they're in a great relationship. Maybe they've been able to get their family out. Maybe their kids are now growing up without the horrendous, mind control that so many of us grew up with. Get yourself into a position where you believe that it's possible for you. Yeah,
absolutely. So I hope that that information is useful. That was a fantastic question. Thanks for sending it in. If you've got listener questions you'd like to send into the Forwardcast, you can tweet them. I'm on Twitter at Covert Fade, and Alice is on Twitter at TheAliceChesh. Or you can send it to jwforwardcast@gmail.com. And once we've got our questions, we will spin up one of these quick fire episodes to get you an answer as soon as possible. But for now, thanks for joining me on the show, Alice.
No worries. Thanks for having me, as ever.
And we'll see you next time. If you've enjoyed this podcast or found it helpful, there are many ways you can support it. You can share us on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Covert Fade, or follow Alice at TheAliceChesh. You can leave us a star review on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. And if you leave us a written review, I will read it out on the show, even if it's a written review telling us that we suck, because, it'll be funny. You can subscribe to the Covert Fade YouTube channel, which is also YouTube Covert Fade. Or you can support us on Patreon, where in return for a monthly donation, you'll get all sorts of goodies. But most of all, if something we've said or one of our guests has said has inspired you to make a change or make a new step in life or reach out for some new goal, then go and get after that goal. Reach out for that change. Set things in motion, because we only get one life. So don't waste it. Spend your time embracing the life you want to live, and not the life that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society told you you had to live. Okay, guys, take care, and see you next time.